Okay, so this is the last part of chapter 2. This is chapter 2, section 7. The last topic we didn't get to go over was the definition of marginal average cost. Forget about the marginal part right now. Let's just focus on average cost. What is average cost? Average cost, no calculus, nothing weird, nothing strange. It's just average cost, okay? So first of all, what's average cost? The symbol for average cost is a C with a bar over it. That bar means average cost, okay? So to find average cost, and that's a mistake, it's just cost over X. To find average cost, it's just cost over X, not average cost, just cost over X. Average cost is a basic idea, which you already know. You take your total cost and divide by how many, just taking an average, okay? So average cost is that. We'll do an example. There's also, and if you took the derivative of that, that would be marginal average cost. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's also average revenue, where you take revenue divided by X. There's marginal average revenue. You take the derivative of it. There's average profit, where you take profit divided by X. And then there's marginal average profit, where you take the derivative of that. Okay? So let's slowly go through the idea of what average cost is. Okay? So let's start with this problem in our notes. You're given cost. This is regular, plain old cost, is 20,000 plus 10x. Okay? You are told that the input X is number of dictionaries, and your output Y, or actually C of X, is cost. Please know, for every word problem, when you read it, you got to know the input and the output. You got to know the input and the output. If you don't know that, it's going to be super hard to do. Okay? So you're given this equation for cost, 20,000 plus 10x. Your input is number of dictionaries, and your output is cost. That's what you're given. Good so far? Now, I asked you to find average cost. That's our new topic for today. Average cost is a basic concept. To find average cost, you take cost and divide it by X. That's it, that's it, that's it. There's no magic. There's nothing special. To find average cost, you take your cost and divide by X. Okay? So if I ask for average cost function, you take your cost and you divide by X. So this is correct. That's a correct answer. No problem at all. Okay? I would take it a step further because that dividing could throw us off. So I would simplify it. What's being divided by X? First, second, or both? Both of them. So that could be called 20,000 over X plus, what's 10x divided by X? 10. So that would be your average cost function. Are we okay? Nice and slow. Any questions? So the first question is, what is the average cost for 1,000 dictionaries? All right, so step 1, did we find average cost? Yep, what's my next step? Plug in 1,000. So I take 1,000, plug it into my function, and then solve. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use our calculator. You could do the work, no problem. You could do the work, no problem. But I want you in Y1 to put the average cost function. In Y1, put the average cost function. Be careful. What should I put around this division part? Parentheses. Just to be safe, I would put parentheses around there. So in Y1, put in your average cost. In Y1, put in your average cost. Go to the table and plug in 1,000. go to the table and plug in 1,000. Now, if you need a calculator, there's an extra one. Okay, gotta follow along, gotta take notes. You can watch these videos later if the test is coming up. Okay, so in Y1, and we did a lot of this before, Y1, we put in our function, make sure our plots are off, all that stuff. I would put parenthesis 20,000 divided by x, close parenthesis, plus 10 in Y1. In Y1, put the average cost. Go to the table and plug in 1,000. And does everybody get 30? Okay, so I'm going to type in 30 here, and I'm going to write my sentence. The average cost for 1,000 dictionaries is 30 what? $30 per dictionary. I don't know if anybody buys a dictionary anymore. Just go online. Now again, it's a very basic idea. You find out your total cost and divide by 1,000. That's what we did. Okay? That's average cost. Average cost. So I'm going to go to the notes real quick. When 1,000 dictionaries are produced, they cost an average of $30 each. All the work we just did. Are we okay? Now, the next question, find the marginal average cost. Marginal average cost. So I don't want average cost. What do I want? What does marginal mean? The what? The derivative. Derivative. So, here's what we're going to do. You start with average cost. And I want you to take the derivative. But remember, when you take the derivative, if it's a little awkward, like dividing, what should you do first? Rewrite it. So I want you to rewrite it first, like we talked about last class. After you rewrite it, then take the derivative, notice the little prime symbol, and see what you get. So if you found something awkward like a square root or something in the denominator, rewrite it first, then take the derivative. So this is practicing derivatives. Okay, so let's make sure we rewrote it correctly. If you rewrite it, this would be what? Good, there's a 1 here, so when I move it up, it's 20,000 x to the negative 1 plus 10. Please understand something. Did I take the derivative yet? No, that's the same thing. Now I can take the derivative. So you need to know your algebra. So if you take the derivative, what does it become? Negative 20,000 x to the, and what's the derivative of 10? So I would simplify this to say your marginal average cost would be negative 20,000 over x squared. You could leave it as x to the negative 2. It does mean the same thing. Yep.
What are we supposed to multiply by?
Multiply by what?
So, according to last year.
So I took negative 1 times 20, which is negative 20,000, subtract 1. That's the derivative. If you do it again, you're taking the derivative twice. We're only doing the derivative once. So -1 times 20,000 is -20,000. Subtract 1 gives you -2.
Isn't the derivative of 16x squared?
Then 2 times 16 is 32. Subtract 1 is 1. We don't keep going. This isn't a 2. This is a -1. So how do you take a derivative? Exponent goes to the front, subtract 1. Every single one that we've done. Exponent goes to the front, subtract 1. Did you forget how to do derivative?
I thought it was like 40,000. That's what I thought.
No. It's again, let's do a basic derivative. X to the 5. What's the derivative of x to the 5?
Next one.
No. 5 goes to the front, subtract 1, 5x4. You've got to know how to take a derivative before you do anything. And all those like 10, 15 examples we did last class, watch the video again. You've got to know how to do it. Okay? Now, I want the marginal average cost at 1,000 dictionaries. Now, practicing what we did last time, I want Y1 average cost. You got it. Y2, put the marginal average cost. And then what do I want in Y3? Derivative in the calculator. So practice what we did last time. Y1 is average cost. Y2, marginal average cost. The derivative in Y2. And then Y3, remember we did the derivative in the calculator? That should be in Y3. So practice that. And then plug in 1,000. So if you need to watch the videos again, you need to study. If you don't know how to do a derivative, if you're bad at your algebra, those are going to be the issues. Y1, average cost. Y2, -20,000 divided by x squared. And then how do you do the derivative in the calculator? What do we do? Math 8. Now depending on your calculator, this version is x bars, y bars, function, y1, x. If you have the other version of the calculator, it's math 8, y1, comma, x. The original tells you average cost, y1. Y2 and Y3 are telling you marginal average cost. So you can check your derivative by doing it this way. Practice. And Y2 and Y3 should match. You have to practice. If you have done nothing since last week, you probably forgot derivatives, you forgot the calculator, you have all that homework to do, you have a quiz to do. You've got to know how to do your stuff. It all goes. Okay? So when you plug it in, Y2 and Y3 match, you get -0.02. So if I plug in 1,000 into marginal average cost, which is the derivative, and you can just type it in as well. You've got all these different ways to check. You get -0.02. So the question is, what's marginal? What's derivative? Why are we doing so many derivatives? What is it for? The marginal average cost at 1,000 dictionaries. The marginal average cost at 1,000 dictionaries. This is how it's changing. When I keep on producing dictionaries, is it going to go up or is it going to go down? It's going to decrease how much? 2 cents per dictionary. Okay? So what does the derivative do? It's rate of change, instantaneous rate of change. How it's changing. This is telling me that at 1,000 dictionaries, it's going to go down 2 cents. So let's take that a little further. So I've made 1,000, the 1,001st, the next dictionary I make, what's going to happen to marginal cost? it's going to go down 2 cents. So the 1,000 one costs $30. What's the next one going to cost? Marginal cost. $30. The next one's going to lose 2 cents. So what's the next one going to be? $29.98. Okay? This is how your marginal cost is changing. This is how your marginal cost is changing. And we can check everything. Original in Y1, derivative in Y2, derivative in the calculator in Y3, we can check it all. But the hardest part is working. So just to flip to the notes real quick, we found that it's negative 2 cents. So if I take the $30 for the $1,000 for the 1,000th one, take off 2 cents, the next one, the 1,001 dictionary, is $29.98. Be careful, the marginal cost is computed by first finding the average cost, then find the derivative. If you mess up the order, it messes up everything else. The interpretations for a marginal cost, it's the derivative as the instantaneous rate of change of the cost function, and the approximate exact cost, we take the 1,000 and then subtract the difference, which is 2 cents in this case. Okay?